Okay. In this short tutorial, I'm going to show you how to download USGS earthquake data from their website and import it into Excel. And I'll just go through the different steps of how to do that. Once you get it in Excel, once you get this earthquake data in Excel, then you're able to analyze it and you know, organize it in any which way you want. But I'll go ahead and show you the steps that I've taken. I did it before, it worked out okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try it again for you. So first thing you need to do, first thing I'm going to be looking at, and I'm interested in just seeing what the earthquake, how many earthquakes occurred in the Yellowstone region. Um, so what I'm going to do from a certain date to a certain date. So this end date, I'm going to leave that the same, the way it is. That's now. And what I'm going to do is change the beginning date here. I happen to know when I did it before that the first date was, I believe it was 1959. That was in the database. It's the first date. So I'm just going to put 1959, the year, the month, and then the day. And that's how it's set up. Okay. So magnitude, I'm going to leave that blank because I want to see everything. If I didn't want to see anything, below 1, then I would start it at 1. And if I didn't want to see anything higher than, let's say, 3, then I would enter, you know, 3. But I want to see everything, so I'm leave that blank. The depth, I want to see everything there, so I'm not going to do anything with that. Review status, I want to leave that just the way it is. The format, I am going to change map and list. That just shows you a map and a list like I can already see on the website. I'm interested, like I said, in downloading it to Excel and looking at it myself and analyzing the data myself. So I'm going to choose CSV. And what this will do, you could use this and open it up in Excel, and I'll show you how to do that. It doesn't matter the order because we're going to change it anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay, the geographic region. I took a look at the map that they use on the USGS website for Yellowstone, and I just jotted down, I determined what the coordinates were. So I'm going to go ahead and create like a rectangle using degree decimal coordinates. So I know north was 45 degrees, south was 44. And you could just look this up. You can make it whatever you want, but these are the things that I wanted to see. And this will determine, it will change. If you make this rectangle bigger, of course you're going to see more. You make it smaller, you're going to see less. But I want to actually see the exact same geographic area that they show on the website. We don't need to fill out anything here. We're not going to pinpoint it and make a circle. We're actually going to make a rectangle with these geographic coordinates. So that I'm going to leave. Okay, all the thing I want to look at is the event site. So we want to look at our six. And that's all I want to see. I don't want to see anything else. Okay. And these are just the catalogs. There's nothing that needs to be filled out down here. So I'll leave all that. I'm not going to limit my results either. I want to see everything. And like I said, once I have it downloaded to Excel, then I could sort of change however I want. I can change it. Okay, so here's the file here. I'm going to save. Actually, I could just go ahead and open it. So save it. I can save it in a minute. Open it with Excel. Okay. It tells you about it's going to open up in a different format. And I know that it's a CSV file format and Microsoft is XLS format. So that's fine. Yes. Okay. So this looks like it looks really ugly. But that's fine because we're going to use a feature called text to columns. And we're going to pick all this raw data and put it into nice neat cells. It's going to look totally different when we're done. So all this data is living in column A. So I'm going to select that. Then I'm going to go to data. I'm going to click text to columns. Okay. I'm going to choose delimited. And then we're going to use comma. Okay, you can always see how it's going to come out. Okay, next, we're going to make all the fields general for now, and I can go ahead and change the cell format when when I'm done. So I'm going to keep everything general and hit finish. Okay, that's a lot better. Okay, so let's see what I want to do next. Okay, so those are all nice neat cells. Time, latitude, longitude, depth, magnitude, height. I'm not sure what this is, or this is, or this, or this. But I know this one field here is an ID field that uniquely identifies each earthquake. And I happen to know these are the dates that it was updated. I'm not quite sure why it gets updated so often. But anyway, that's that. This is the place exactly where it is. And then, of course, all the types I only want to see earthquakes. So that's that. Okay. So another thing I want to do is, so they have the date and the time in the same field, and I don't want to see it in the same field. I want to be able to work with the date separately, not date time together. So what I'm going to do is actually split this field, split this cell. It doesn't look like when you first look at it, there's a way to split it, but there actually is, because the first part of this data is the date, and then the second half looks to be the time. And I see a T here, and I'm going to actually use that T, and that T is all the way throughout all the contents, all the way down this column. So I'm actually going to use that T to split up these two, this data here into two different cells. So I'll show you how to do that. Before I do that, I'll go ahead and insert an extra column, because I'm going to need it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select the whole column. I'm going to go back up, extra column. You limited, yes, you want that. Instead of using a comma, this time we're going to go to other. And like I said, there was a T here that I wanted to use to split up this cell. And I'm going to go ahead and put the T in there. And you can see where it replaced the T with the line. So we have the date on this side, and time on that side. I don't know if that's why they put it there, but that's just too convenient for me. So I used it. We're going to keep all this general. Like I said, I like to format the dates after having them. Oh, and this is the destination. So it's going to go, it's going to really take up A1, the whole column, and B1, all of that. So it's going to take up this one and this one. So you'll see. There it goes. Okay. So the first is actually our date field. So I'm going to go ahead and change it here. And the second is our time field. Change that there. It's going to double click here and make it fit. Okay. The other thing I like to do, and not everybody does it, but I like to filter it. And that way, when I go to sort, I don't have any issues when it comes to messing up the cells. Because right now, if you sort, each of these cells are individual. So, for example, if I tried to sort on date now, this thing would get all messed up. So I actually like to grab all of it and filter it. And that way, when I sort, then it just all the rows stay the same, stay aligned the way they're supposed to. There was one thing I wanted to do, and I forgot to do it, and I wanted to change this date column to actual date. So I'm going to use short date. Now that's set up for date. And everything else, I'm just going to leave general. Everything else is going to stay the same. Okay, so now I can go in. I sort of want to bold these, separate them out a little bit, and I can actually shade the cells a little bit too. That's easy. But this is not where we're going to do the manipulation. We're actually going to do it in a pivot table, but that's okay. So now we can sort it. So if I sort by date, we can do oldest to newest, which is what was here, or we can sort from newest to oldest, and that just changes it. So these are the more recent ones up here. And this is the oldest ones here. So it started, like I said, in 1959. We started before that. Okay. So what I want to do, okay, so that shows you just a couple of features over here. what I also want to do is show you how just a couple little things in a pivot table. It's not going to take long. I don't want to make this a long video. So what I did was I went in here right ahead in the upper left-hand corner and clicked the little square. And what that does is that highlights all the cells in the, on the sheet. And then I go to Insert, and then I go to Pivot Table because that's what I want. By default, it puts it on its own sheet. You don't have to. You can put it in the existing sheet. But I hardly ever do. Actually, I never do that. I always put it on its own sheet. One of the reasons why I do that is if I mess up on the pivot table, it's just easier just to delete the whole sheet and start over on the pivot table. So here's where the pivot table will be. These right here on the right-hand side, these are all the columns that you saw on the spreadsheet right here. Okay, all these columns here are represented over here. Okay, and like I said, a pivot table is just a different way to organize the data, because that's a lot in that spreadsheet. I mean, to look through. If you're trying to figure out, how many earthquakes happened in, June of 2013, or how many happened all of last year, or how many do we have to date this year, I mean, this is not the place to do it. You really want to do that type of analyzing in the pivot table. So I think I'm going to do is look at the count, first of all, so I can say, okay, well, how many earthquakes occurred in this Yellowstone region since they started keeping track. And this is what they have listed on the website. So automatically, by default, they put it in the rows table, but I actually want to find a count. Now, I didn't tell you this before, and I'm going to go back real fast. Well, I did mention it, that this column here is a unique identifier. So every earthquake that occurs has its own unique ID. So that's the field that we're actually going to do our counts on. So every time I do a count, it's always going to be on this ID field here. So I probably didn't mention part of that before. So by default, when I clicked on it, it put in the rows, the row label. Actually, I don't want it there. I'm going to scoot it over to values. And you could count. This will do sum. This will do average. So what I want to do is a count. And then the count is 2,547 earthquakes have occurred in the Yellowstone region since that's what they have in their catalogs that I downloaded. So that was from 1959 to this point. It could have been a lot more, but that was a small geographic region that square. So anyway, so that's what that is. Let's see what else I want to look at. I can pull the date in so that we can do some things by date. Okay. So what this does, once I pull the date in, and like I said, by default, it goes, these are our row labels over here, and our column labels will be over here if we use any, which I don't like using. I can show you what it looks like, but I just don't like using them because it spreads it out too far across the spreadsheet. So I sort of like to work in this area here. I guess there's reasons to use this if you don't have that many things to look at. I just prefer, for these purposes, I'd rather keep everything in the row labels. So, for example, on April 1st, 1973, there was 1 earthquake. June 30th, 1975, there were 7. You could also pull out certain dates if you wanted to look at something specific. Right now, its default is select all, so it has all the dates here. So if you actually wanted to look at June 4th, then we can get the count for June 4th. If you wanted to count for, let's pull out anything, on November 7th, 2013, you could pull out that. It was 1. So that's how you said you could clear it. Let me do that again. And then you hit the little filter. You hit clear filter. Okay. Also, what you can do is you have some date filters already set up for you. So if you want to know how many earthquakes year to date, you can click there, and it tells you. You have to scroll down a little bit so you can see. Okay, so year to date, January 1st, 2014 to June 5th, there's 972. So that's how you do that. And then you can clear that out. So every time you apply your filter, you can come back in and clear the filter to do another one. Okay. There's another, so right now we're looking at all these individual dates. You can also look at it by year as well. You can also look at it by month as well. So if I wanted to instead of looking at each individual, how many earthquakes per day, we can actually look at how many earthquakes per year. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that. Then we want to come to the sign. Sorry, that's not what we want. We want options. Sorry. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to group on the state field. So we'll go ahead and take group selections. Okay, so we're starting in 1959. We're ending on June 6th, and we want to actually see it by year, not by month. So we'll click there and hit OK. So that way it changes and actually groups them together. So that way we know that in 1973 there were 39, 1978 there were 11 earthquakes, 1982 there were 4. We're scrolling down, 2008 55, and the numbers seem to get higher. 2013 there was 1,150. And so far this year, like I said before, there's 972. So this was actually the whole year, 1,150. But so far, from I guess not even quite half the year, we're already at 972. So that shows you how to do that. Okay, and you can ungroup it as well. So we're going to go ahead and ungroup and get our dates back, individual dates. You don't always have to look at, and by the way, you saw me click away from it, and that gets rid of your pivot table tools. If you click back on the pivot table, they show up again. There's something else I think I wanted to show you. Oh, you can also do a filter the report as well, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's just say we're going to filter by magnitude. So I'm going to put that in the report filter, and that's going to show up here. And what that does is as we click these, it shows only the magnitudes that we want to see. So I'm going to unselect them all and say, show me only the earthquakes that are maybe 5 in magnitude and higher, and that would be 5 in magnitude and higher. Okay? So there's only been 8 that were that big since 1959. Then you go back. You want to select all again. Okay, and everything shows back up. And if you don't want to that report filter, you just push it back up here and it's gone. Another thing that's pretty cool in here that I like to use is a slicer. And that's just another way to filter as well. So then you could decide how you want to filter this data again. So let's filter a different way by date. Actually, yeah, let's filter a different way by date. Okay, so now we're filtering by date, but we're using a slicer. Okay. So right now, if we click on this date, we're only going to get 1959, but it gives us the totals right here, which is pretty easy. Let's go to April 4th, 1973. There was 1. So let's scroll way down to recent. Okay, so June 3rd, 2014, there were 56. Like May 22nd, there's 2014. So just a different way, okay? And if you, different way to analyze the data. With pivot tables, you can really do so much with it. Click back on there. We're going to go ahead and remove this filter, this filter. And now we have all of them back again. Okay. Let me see what else. I think that's all for now. I wanted to show you if there's anything else that's interesting as far as the pivot table. Yeah, we didn't do anything else yet. So let me pull the slicer again, and then we're going to look at the depth. This way, you can look at deep ones, shallow earthquakes, deep earthquakes, etc. So these are really deep ones. That seems fairly deep. So the one that occurred in 1973 and another one in 1974, these were 33. And I want to say they're kilometers. I vaguely remember seeing that on the website, that the depth was in kilometers. I'm pretty sure it was. Okay, so let's see about the shallow ones. So let's see the ones that were like 0.1 kilometer, 7, 2, there was 3. So it just tells you, it just depends on how you want to do it. You can select more than one of these as well if you hit the shift key. So if you want to see all the ones, and I don't know how you get a negative depth, but I guess it's possible. So here, I'm holding the shift key down, and these are all the ones with a negative depth, which I don't get that. So that's how you do that. If you want to see all of them, just click this X, and that what that does is that unfocus, and you see everything again. And when you're done with the slicer, you just select it and just hit delete, and it deletes the slicer. So those are just a few of the advanced search features in Excel. I mean, just very few. There's a lot more that this can do. You can even do a chart. I don't know if I can do that real fast. I don't want to make this video too long. Let me see if I can go ahead and do a quick chart for you. So what first thing I'm going to do, so I think it's easier for me to chart it on the years than it would be on the dates. So the chart would be too long if I did it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and group on the date like I did before, group on the years. Okay, so that way I don't have so many years to work with. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is go to pick the chart. Let's use this one, so that one's easy. And then we have a tiny little chart here. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay. And then what it does is it just gives you a visualization of the same data that you saw in your pivot table. It was very, very simple to do. And you can see this is 2003 and 2013 and 2014 where there's such a spike, I guess, in the number of earthquakes. In this bottom corner down here, actually I can use this to maybe only look at the last 10 years. So let's take it back to 2004. Okay. Okay. Actually, it's a little bit bigger and easier to read too. And what you can do, if you want to see the values, let's see where that's hiding. Here it is. Okay. So you see the data labels, and we want to put it on the outside end so that way you can see the values here. So this is the yearly totals. It's just visual. It just looks better. So same data. We look same data over here, but it's just condensed it in a easier to read way. That's it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions as far as how to do any of this stuff with the pivot tables or how to learn any of the advanced features in Excel, please leave a comment or send me an email. If you, yeah, you can go ahead and send me a comment and hit the like button if you liked it. I'm sorry, hope I didn't bore you to death. But yeah, I thought the Yellowstone data was very interesting to work with. I have an interest in what goes on in Yellowstone. I learned about a few years ago with all the swarms, and ever since then I've sort of been hooked on watching different things about Yellowstone. I started following a person by the name of Mary Greeley, who's been putting some great videos on YouTube. So I've been sort of watching her and looking at some of the earthquake data she's been putting up. So I just thought this was something good that people might be interested in looking at. So hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.